Good evening, everybody. At this time, if you're able to rise, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have a couple of great things tonight before we start our regular business meeting. So at this point, we have a student presentation from Rourke Fizzoni on his Eagle Scout project.
Hello, can you hear me? All right, I'm Rourke Fizzoni. I'm a junior at Scotia-Glenville High School. I'm an aspiring Eagle Scout and a Lincoln Elementary School alumni, if you will. I'm here to talk about my Eagle Scout service project, which includes three main elements: a building of a bench at Lincoln School, a free little library construction at the high school, and a book drive for Lincoln School. I want to give back to Lincoln because when I was there, they gave so much to me, and I just really want to help them out as much as I can. So the first point I want to discuss with you is the bench. You'll see on the packet in front of you the location where I wish to build the bench. It's next to Miss Gillen's free little library that is established at Lincoln Elementary School. I want to build it on the side closest to the entrance of the school as to not interrupt with the flagpole. The model of the bench is written on the page if you want to take a look at it. I understand that Buildings and Grounds has to approve the bench model, and I will discuss with them any further details. Moving on is the free little library. This is an option to build at the high school if the scouting board, who I will present this to, says I need more to my project. It will be at the front entrance of the high school on the patch of lawn next to a light pole, as I found it was a good location because people come through that entrance and they can see it. The next point and the main part of my project is a book drive for Lincoln School. I will hold this book drive independent from the school district and off school grounds, but I will be donating the books to Lincoln School with your permission. This project will have a cost associated with it, but none of it will be on the school district. I will finance it all myself through fundraising, which is an element of the Eagle Scout project. A little more about the Eagle Scout project. It emphasizes leadership and growth of character through the scout who organizes it, which would be me. And it really emphasizes strengthening and improving the community. And that's why, again, I want to focus my project around Lincoln. So what do I need from the board? I need approval on the three items I've discussed: building a bench at Lincoln, building a free little library at the high school, and donating my collected books to Lincoln School. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. We appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
Did you talk to the principals of each of the school regarding the location?
I have. I talked to Mr. Giannetti first, and he thought it was a great project, as that's my understanding, and he approved of it. And I talked with Mr. Bednarik, and he's said it's okay to build a free little library on the high school grounds.
Thank you for thinking of us.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Thank you. Any more questions? No. Thank you. Board,
Thank you.
We're all in agreement on this. So next that we move forward to get this actually on the agenda, hopefully next week. Right. And then we will.
I'm saying that next week.
Oh, next week's work session. I'm sorry. So it'll be the next regular board meeting. We get that on the agenda if everybody's in agreement.
Yeah. Yes.
And then we'll officially vote on it then.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Fizzoni, if you come find me, I'll make a donation. I understand the fundraising stuff, so if you come find me, I'll be happy to make a donation to you.
Okay. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. This time I'll turn it over to Principal Bednarik for a unified banner presentation. One up top.
Good evening. It is my
pleasure and my privilege to be able to introduce a couple of folks to you who work here in our district, specifically at the high school, and then they're going to introduce a number of other people to you this evening, and I think you're going to enjoy the presentation that they have for you. A number of years ago, we started here at Scotia-Glenville a little thing at the time, although it was a pretty heavy lift to get it rolling. We started playing unified basketball. And tonight you're going to see the trajectory that that program has taken and how we've gone from a sports program that was unifying for our athletes and for our general student population to something that is much bigger, much more expansive, and truly unifies our whole high school. And they're also going to give you a little bit of a glimpse of where we're going in the future. Our Tartan commitment statement starts with this: every Tartan is a vital thread in our shared tapestry. At Scotia-Glenville, we are committed to embodying unity, embracing representation, upholding the dignity of each individual. That's the first and second sentence of our Tartan commitment. And I think what you're going to hear about tonight is a great example of that. The last thing I want to say before I introduce Mr. Ashcraft and Mrs. Aker is just that while we had helped getting the program going from Mr. Rockhill when he was the athletic director to Mrs. Cerrone when we started Unity Week at the high school, these two individuals, Mrs. Aker and Mr. Ashcraft, have borne the lion's share of the facilitator work. And I know they're going to introduce you to some of our fantastic students, but I want to recognize the effort that they've done. Mr. Ashcraft is an innovator in physical education with the program that we have and with the way he leads his students and coaches his students. And Mrs. Aker put in a tremendous amount of work, which led to the recognition that our school has received across the state of New York and with Special Olympics. So without further, I would turn it over to Mr. A.
Thank you. Honored to be here tonight with a chance to brag about the kids and the program and some of the things we do at Scotia, our unified program. This is my 32nd year in the district, and it started as an adaptive PE teacher, and it's kind of evolved into a lot of other things. The one I'm most proud of is being the unified PE program that we established that is kind of built from unified basketball and bowling that started first. And that's kind of molded from there into unified club and unified intramurals, and it's just kind of exploding. Like every tangent that we have to build these kids into it, we're doing that. But the opportunity tonight was to kind of get to a chance to explain what we've done with how we achieved the unified champion school status and the steps that we took to get there, and then have a couple of our athletes come up and explain how unified sports has affected them. So we started last spring, Ms. Aker and I putting together the application for Unified Champion School. I will honestly say she did the lion's share of the work. It's all technology and pictures, which she's very good at, not my strong suit. But she was able to put together a presentation that I thought she knocked it out of the park. We were given the recommendation in the Unified Champion School status this past fall. I think the district knew that. They put together a nice article on the website. So one of the things with Unified Champion School is that we're to put it out to the community. How are we showing what we've done and how are we moving it forward? So a couple months ago during one of the boys' home basketball games, we had a mini unified game during halftime. That was one way to kind of throw it out. We took a picture with the flag and had the kids play. And then tonight, we're kind of letting the board and the community know that we've received the recognition. And then in the future, we're kind of planning on putting a float together for Memorial Day Parade with all unified sports. And then we're going to do another assembly game against Schuylerville during the school day, late April. So we're trying to moving forward and letting everyone know what Unified's all about at Scotia and putting our kids out there. We were one of 9 schools in New York to receive this honor this year, and we're one of 45 to have it at all. So there's not a lot of schools that have achieved what we've achieved, and we're really proud of it. I'm going to introduce Miss Aker. She took our application and she kind of shrunk it down to a handful of slides for you. And then after she's done with that, I'm going to have a couple of students come up and speak and a couple of parents come up and speak of how unified sports affected them. So Caitlin will go through the slides.
Hi. So we actually were recognized at the national level as well, so national and state. So we received 2 banners for that, and we're recognized at both levels, which is also really a huge achievement. If you can see up there, Special Olympics, there's a panel of leaders through Special Olympics that created 10 standards of excellence that schools have to achieve in a certain way, and that's what that application process consisted of. So I had to go through those 10 standards and kind of prove and show how we met each of those standards throughout the course of the year as we've had Unified. The 10 standards of excellence encompass those 3 components that I have up there: unified sports, inclusive youth leadership, and then whole school engagement. What I'm going to do quickly, I have a bunch of slides. I'll try to go through them quickly. We have some photos, and I'll explain what each of these 3 components are and what we have within those components and what we offer at the high school level. So first thing, unified sports. We, like Mr. Bednarik mentioned, we did start with unified basketball back in 2017. That was the first program that we started with. It's offered in April and May. We're actually starting up our unified basketball season on Monday, which is super exciting. You can see we have lots of photos up there over the course of the last few years, but unified basketball was the first program. Following year, we were able to add unified bowling. So that following year in 2018, we had unified basketball and unified bowling. We did just finish our unified bowling season where we placed 3rd place in our culminating tournament, end of season tournament, which was really exciting. And that is offered, that's a January, February sport. So they're kind of shortened seasons. We also have unified cheerleading, which is really fun and exciting. That was something brand new in 2005, which was last year. So Coach A and Ms. Semerad made that happen, and we were able to add unified cheer last year, and our plan is to have it again this year as well. They're combined with our unified basketball team, and Ms. Semerad and Coach Ashcraft kind of coach both and make both of those teams happen. Our unified cheer team, they usually just come to home basketball games, and just a couple practices, but it's really fun and exciting. Unified physical education. This is something that Coach Ashcraft was able to bring to our school in 2023-2024. That's the first year that we started. We average between 10 athletes and 12 partners, but our numbers are booming and our interest levels are increasing, and it's really an awesome program. We only currently have 1 section of UPE, which is every other day. So we do have to, cut it to a certain limit of students that can join, but we do have a lot of interest, which is also really exciting. Those are just some photos in the past, previous years of our students in UPE. Unified intramurals. This is something we started in the 2024-2025 school year, which Ms. Semerad plays a huge part in this and helping these unified intramurals run. My Unified Club, they're the ones that plan it, run it, they pick the activities, and they come and participate in all these activities as well. We try to hold them once a month throughout the school year. We do different themes, fun activities, and it's just, we've had anywhere from 25 to 35 students that are coming to these intramurals to just have fun and be together. And again, it's something our Unified Club plays a huge role in this, and obviously in Miss Semerad and all that we do. Next component, our inclusive youth leadership, which is our Unified Club. Our Unified Club, I have a few photos there. We have a huge group this year. In the past, we've had maybe 6 to 8 students that were involved, and this year I have 25 to 30. So our numbers, like I said, are increasing, and the interest is going up, and it's just really awesome to be a part of it. And actually, Serena is not in that bottom photo, but Serena is in our Unified Club as well, and she is here with us. But our Unified Club, we attend leadership summits, we do fundraisers, we meet once a month, collaborate with other clubs and departments, and we pretty much just run and promote everything unified. Run intramurals, we plan and participate in the polar plunge, and just do a lot of things within the school in regards to that. And we're working on planning a Unity Week currently. Whole school engagement, that's that last component. Unity Week in 2024, this was when Miss Cerrone was here and she was able to get this up and running for us, the Unity Week. That was just, a couple photos from that year. Second year, we did Unity Week again last year, and we added in an assembly basketball game, which is really exciting. So that Friday of Unity Week, we had that assembly basketball game, which you could see lots of excitement, lots of fun photos, and we also are planning the same thing again this year for our Unity Week, which will be really fun. Polar Plunge, that's another whole school engagement that was part of that application process. The Polar Plunge, I know at Scotia we've been doing it for a lot of years, but personally myself and Miss Semrad, we kind of took it over with the Unified Club and Give the past few years, and we've run that together, and our Unified Club is a huge part of that as well. But this past year in November, we raised just over $8,000, which was the most so far we've raised. Each year we kind of got a little bit more and more, so that was really exciting. And we have between 40 and 50 students and staff that were involved in that, partners and athletes both, which is another whole school engagement activity, which is really exciting. And then this is our picture from our unified basketball game at the boys varsity basketball game, where we presented our banner for the first time.
So at this time, we're going to have a couple of speakers come up. First speaker will be Manny Hempstead. His son Manny is a member of the Unified Basketball, Unified Bowling, Unified Intramurals, and Unified PE class.
So I'm Manny Hempstead. My son's been probably since the beginning, I think, playing unified sports when it was established in the school. I think one of the most wonderful things as a parent is when your child, who you are unsure what life looks like later on when you get into school and high school, what are the available opportunities? Scotia-Glenville has provided quite the opportunity. I didn't even know it was going to be there. Last year we were at the MVP arena during the, what was it? It was the finals. So we won the championships last year at the MVP arena. I mean, as a parent with a child with special needs, when they're little, you don't know what that future looks like, but that future is now being laid out. So people within the school district can now see that, if this is a program that we build in, they could possibly look forward to their children playing bowling, playing basketball. Manny he loves it. When the crowd goes nuts, he makes a shot on a basketball court. Manny is loving it. And it's great because you look at all the players, they learn each other's names. They're so outgoing. They learn the game. They get into it. The crowd's cheering. They go to practice together. We just had the championships for bowling, for unified bowling, a week or two ago? A couple weeks ago. It was the same situation. Manny came out to play, and it was one of his best performances of the whole season. He was getting, I think, maybe 3 or 4 strikes, but it was the stage that was set for him to get up there and have that opportunity to go out there. I think Coach Swain walked up with him every single frame, and they just had a ball. And to see the smile on his face and all the different school districts come out, this has become a very important, integral part of our family. His brother just graduated last year. He was in unified sports. He was a helper. And that was a big deal for him, too. He chose to actually do unified sports with him over some other mainstream sports. So I think there's a program where you have some work credits where helpers actually get work credits towards their degree. They get to, I would say, be a part of the whole entire program, whereas if you rewind 20, 30 years ago, a lot of times you didn't see people with gym. You didn't have unified gym. You barely saw Special Olympics enter into the school. Now, everybody has the opportunity to either participate in unified sports or be a helper. And that's amazing. Manny and his brother got to play unified sports for years, and I really, really appreciate that. Other than that, I think this is an amazing team-building effort between the school, between the district, between the mainstream students, the people who have IEPs, everything, all the way around. This is a major team-building effort, and I think it's a great program. Good job, guys.
Next, I'd like to introduce Glenn Dixon. His son Ilyash is a freshman at the high school, first year, and he just finished up his first bowling season, and he's in the unified PE class and unified intramurals as well.
Well, I don't have the experience that the last gentleman had. However, the experience that I do have and I can speak to is a lot of what he talked about makes sense to me. You're growing up with your kid and you're watching him and you're thinking to yourself, man, these are the things that I had when I was a kid, and he's never going to have the things that I experienced. It's just not going to be in the cards for him. But here's something that is. Here's the, he can play sports. He can be involved. He loves sports. He loves sports. During the football season, get him to shut up about sports. I promise you, it's not going to happen. He loves sports, and he loves being a part of it. And, my wife and I have been laughing, for 2 weeks now since the bowling championship. They finished third place, which to me, I'm thinking to myself, boy, if I was in that position, I'd spend the next year complaining about this wasn't right, that wasn't right. I'd be frustrated beyond reason. He is lifting the plaque over his head, jumping around like he just won the World Series. And I think that's amazing that we're able to give him that. And I talked to Coach Ashcraft, and I find out that ever since he started doing this program, he's improving his performance at the adaptive PE level, which is just amazing to me that's having that kind of positive effect. And I think the last thing I really want to just say and get out there is, thank you so much to all of the helpers, all of the kids who work with my son and with any other son or any other daughter for that matter. It means so much to me that you're willing to set your time aside and not just be there for him, but it's more than just an imposition. You're doing it so freely and so cheerfully in a way that I cannot imagine happening when I was growing up. As a child, that was not a thing, and it's amazing that it's here. And 1 out of 45 schools in the state, it's here, not anywhere else. And I think that's amazing. Thank you.
Well, we don't give out individual awards, but if we were to have a unified queen at Scotia, a Miss Unified, you may say, it would be Serena Prezanowski. So we're going to have Serena's mom come up and ask her a few questions. She's going to be a little shy, but it's okay, Serena. Mom will be up here with you. And she'll answer a couple of questions.
Thank you. So unfortunately, they placed me after Manny, and so I am a little teary right now, but we'll get through this. Okay, so I'm going to ask some questions, and somehow Serena's going to answer these. But I have to mimic the comments that Manny's dad and Eliash's dad made, that this program has been amazing. Don't cry. I'm not crying. It has definitely given Serena opportunities that would have never been available to her.
Don't cry.
For me personally, and I'm sure for her father, seeing her go to the sports award banquet last year and get awarded a plaque for getting 2 letters, varsity letters, was amazing. And she would have never been able to do that outside of this program. So, Princess, what unified programs do you do? Do you participate here at Scotia?
I do unified bowling, basketball, and we're going to do bocce soon.
Yes, that is exciting. You also are on the council, the club.
The club.
You're in unified PE.
Unified PE.
Yeah, intramurals.
Intramural.
She doesn't ever miss an intramural. And the club. What is your favorite thing that you like about participating in the unified program?
Seeing all my friends and spending time with every single one of you guys.
Yeah, I have to mention, one of the highlights of prom last year was getting pictures of Serena with some of the helpers outside of the special needs classroom, and how willing and accepting they were to just put their arms around her and give her a hug outside of the unified program. It was amazing. How does participating in these programs make you feel?
Happy and excited.
Yes, okay. What is your favorite memory or experience of participating in Unified?
I don't know.
The championships last year?
The championships last year.
At the MVP?
MVP Arena.
Good job. Thank you very much.
And we got two more speakers. These are partners, so the general education students that come in to help out. We're going to start with Sam Fiore, who this will be his third year of basketball coming up, moving off the JV basketball team onto the unified basketball team.
Hi, I'm Sam Fiore. I'm a sophomore at Scotia-Glenville High School. And as a student, I feel like unified is not something that we have to do, but something that we get to do. It's definitely a privilege for me and for a lot of my classmates I know. It's the only place where, regardless of age or gender or interest or ability, everyone can come together and work together. And like they were saying, we even won the championship, so we get stuff done too. We accomplish things, and it's you can't find it really anywhere else in the school like that. So just a big thanks to Coach Ashcraft, Miss Aker, and Miss Semrod, and all the other adults who make it possible, because it's definitely something to be proud of at Scotia, and it's something I'm grateful to be a part of. So.
Our last speaker, partner, Mia Charmello. This is her first year in Unified PE. She hasn't done sports yet, but she's on the roster for Unified Basketball. But her experience so far is with Unified PE.
Hi, I am Mia Charmello. I'm a sophomore at Scotia-Glenville High School. And Unified is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I've always known, no matter how hard my day was, no matter how many tests I have, no matter the homework. I walk in ninth period, B days, and I am thrilled. Everyone has a smile on their face. Everyone's happy to see me. I'm happy to see everyone. It's just a great time, and I feel so accepted regardless of anything. It's the most judgment-free zone that I've ever witnessed in my life, and as somebody with social anxiety, that is so calming to walk into a room and know that you are valued and that people want you there. I actually had my younger cousin, who goes to a different school district, but he asked me, he was like, I wonder, like, he said that he was proud of me for being involved in the programs that I'm in, and asked me how he could get involved. And I was like, well, it starts outside of a program. It starts being a friend, being an ally, being someone who's there for people regardless of their abilities or anything, being regardless of your differences. And then he realized that, and he went and he sat with a new kid at lunch, and he was there. And I was like, that is what being a Unified Club member and a person involved in Unified means. That's what being a leader means, is to be here and be present and be with the people that you're around. And I just love the people that I get to work with. Everyone is so amazing. I'm beyond proud of how far everyone's came in Unified gym, and I'm so excited to start Unified Cheer. So thank you guys.
She meant Unified PE, not Unified Gym. Sorry. That's good. I'm just going to finish up with the program's doing exactly what we wanted them to do. They're not strictly in the gym. They're not strictly in the cafeteria when we do intramurals. It's exploding into the school. These kids see each other in the hallway, they see each other in their library, they see each other at the prom. Those friendships aren't just helping friendships. They're lifelong friendships. We had a student last year who gave a buddy his cell phone number. And to this special needs student, to have a kid who he could call on a weekend was something he hadn't had before. So those things are taking place every day, and our kids here have an opportunity to do that. So thank you for that. We'd like to get a quick photo with our banner that we were given. Board members, feel free to come on into the picture. We'd like to get that on the webpage. Come on up.
All right. And now we will present the Tartan Employee of the Month for the month of February. Mr. Torelli has something to say about Coach Giannetti.
John, I want to apologize because you got me and they had that great presentation, so it's going to be what it's going to be. John Giannetti has been a part of my life for a long time. I first knew him during my own high school years, and later I had the pleasure of reconnecting with him when Miles started kindergarten at Lincoln. During his opening remarks to parents that year, John said something that immediately stayed with me. My main job is to make sure your children are safe. There are no better words he could have said to a room full of parents. From that point forward, my experience with Scotia-Glenville as a parent started on the right foot. Back in 1996, the Scotia-Glenville district made a monumental hire when they brought John on board. During his time in the district, John has shaped the lives of thousands of students in the hallways, in classrooms, and on fields and courts. Over the years, he has served many roles, including in-school suspension supervisor, dean of students, physical education teacher, student teacher, substitute teacher, assistant high school principal, athletic director, principal, and I think on Friday you were Human Sunday. But John's impact didn't stop when the school day ended. He has also dedicated countless hours to our youth community, working with varsity athletes in basketball, football, soccer, indoor and outdoor track and field, bowling, and lacrosse. In his spare time, he worked on what he considered his greatest accomplishment of all, his family. Together with his wife, Elaine, he raised 4 children right here in the SG community. Most recently, John helped guide our community through some very difficult conversations about what closing the school might look like. He handled those discussions with calm, profession, and grace. Throughout it all, John has been a constant source of inspiration, leadership, and support for everyone around him. Simply put, he's a model Tartan. If you've ever had the pleasure of visiting him at Lincoln, you'll notice something across his desk. Displayed there are the words of Lao Tzu. If I mispronounce that, I apologize. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. Those words feel especially fitting for someone like John, because his actions, his habits, and his character have helped shape the destiny of so many students in our community. And for that, we are all grateful.
Congratulations again, Coach. Thank you. All right. Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes now for refreshments, I was just told. So we'll take 5 minutes. We'll be back soon. And hopefully keep this positivity going tonight. All right, we'll get going with the business portion of our meeting now. And just a request from the board members, if we're speaking tonight, try to speak into our microphones, as we've had a couple of people email us that they can't hear you. So I know you two are sharing politely over there. Well, sure, unless Cal wants to talk. We're good. Okay. All right. So at this time, we'll open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody we have 30 minutes set aside. Anyone that wishes to address the board, please just head to the podium, state your name and your address, and please adhere to our 5-minute policy. Okay, we'll close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everyone part 2 will be at the end of the meeting. And at this time, I will turn it over to Superintendent Schwartz and Mr. Giaquinto for our budget discussion, part 2.
So tonight we're going to review some information for folks that we've been talking about pretty consistently as we move towards adopting a spending limit. And that's where I want to start tonight. I just want to remind the board that although you have a line item budget, what we really ask you to adopt is a spending cap. And underneath that spending cap, as you know, things will move financially depending on need. So one of the things I would point out to you, for example, was this school year, a couple of the board members, Mr. Torelli, Mr. Roberts, had become quite interested in board docs as a way of perhaps simplifying the board materials we put together and making them more easily accessible. I brought Ms. Johnson as our IT director. Kathy is the person who does most of that board information, Julia as our information officer, and myself together with the board docs folks for an evaluation of the product and what it could do. We looked at the pricing, which is through BOCES, so we get 8 on it. And because we had some funding we could move from one line to another, we were able to make that purchase to start that this year. We think that's going to be really outstanding for the district. So although you see that line item budget, you know that 77% of our budget is all tied up in personnel and benefits. There is some flexibility. You also saw that last year when we had additional costs in special education that we hadn't anticipated and we had to move money. And then when we had some things in our health insurance realm that also cost us to move some money. So again, what we're going to ask you to do tonight is to adopt the spending limit. It's just like your home budget. You have a spending limit. Sometimes you have to shift money within that budget. As Mr. Bednarik alluded to tonight, one community, every Tartan, the pattern that unites us, a way for us to get centered as we start talking about budget. And our goals for this evening are to review my budget recommendation, my spending cap recommendation to you, to answer any further questions that the board has after the information they heard last week and we'll hear again tonight. And then to have the Board of Ed adopt a spending limit at the tax levy limit of 1.78%, which is our 2% this year. So Drew, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Susan. To review what was presented last week, the spending limit that we presented was $67,155,932, which is less than 1% increase, $642,238, and it generates a tax levy increase of 1.78%, which is at the maximum allowable to still be at a 50% majority vote to approve the budget, or $615,267. So not a lot of wiggle room under the tax cap this year. And again, the tax cap at 1.78 compared to last year's 3.25. And again, it only allows us to increase the tax levy by $615,000. The spending limit and the tax cap will reflect a projected tax rate increase of 2.54%, which, going over the presentations the last 2 weeks with the change in the pilot program due to the Bellagio cheese coming off the tax rolls and going to a pilot, has an adverse effect on the tax rate. These were the summaries of the FTE reductions that we broke down over the budget process. From Glen Warden closure, we generated 19 instructional reductions. And then from the non-instructional side, it was another 13.61 positions. We also were able to, as information became updated through the budget process, knowing that our first budget draft was February 9th, a lot of information changes or becomes more available as you move into March. We got final BOCES pricing. We were able to go through budget meetings with various administrators and look at some money that was carried over in the budget that we could reduce because we were carrying slightly excess money in a couple programs. And we did get our property and casualty insurance rate, and Mr. Arquette was gracious in reducing curriculum development a little bit based on some grant money he has available to utilize. So all in all, that got us to our budget reductions. So this is the roll-up since February 9th, where we have basically achieved the $2.7 million gap that's been addressed through some revenue changes, which were was the RDS subsidy on the money we get because we have a drug program for retirees and do not utilize the Medicare D from the government. We get subsidy money on that, and we're able to get a commitment from BOCES on additional classroom rentals. So that generated $130,000 more revenue from the February 9th draft. And then there's the expense reductions broken down into staffing and non-personnel. Again, almost 33 positions, almost 15 were vacant or outsourced, so it's slightly under 18 staffing impact on people sitting in positions right now. And this was the tax cap history, which shows you how the budget presented to the board looks at our historical since 2013-14. You can see, other than the tax rate, which has been a minuscule 1.33 over this time, this year it's an outlier due to the change in the assessed value with the pilot. Any questions on before I step down for a minute? I'll be here.
You will. So last week while we were together, I wanted to make sure that I came back this week and talked to you specifically about the instructional reductions. So if you look at this chart, you know that for folks who are being accessed, they're placed on what's called a preferred eligibility list. And then basically they can come back to a position that opens that they are qualified and certified for. So when we look at those 7.0 full-time equivalent elementary classroom teachers, I had mentioned to you that we would be able to reassign 3 or 4 of those 7, so the most senior people, 3 or 4 of the most senior people, which we've already done. So the actual reduction of teachers is 3 general classroom teachers, and those folks will all go on the Pell list in seniority. We talked about the reduction of a single reading teacher. That person also goes on the Pell list. but the Pell List for reading, which is where their certification is. So they're not on the elementary Pell List, they're on the reading Pell List, the administrators on the administrative Pell List. If you look at my note on the bottom here, and I'm going to ask Mr. Arquette to jump in if I miss anything, we are finding that because we are going to consolidate 4 elementary schools to 3, we're actually going to be in a better position to provide support to students because we're not going to be stretched quite as thin across 4 schools. So RTI, which is our response to intervention, and Wilson groups, 2 specialized things that we do for students who qualify, have the capacity to accommodate current GW students who are identified. So we know we can absorb those students. Glendale and Lincoln will have an additional 0.5 reading teacher over what they presently have, so an increase in services in reading, even with that reduction. Rick, remind me, is it 3 or 4 reading teachers at SAC?
We currently have 4 at SAC.
And it will remain 4.
With the potential of an additional 0.5, we've got about 1.0 FT of kind of flex reading, where we have to wait to see how our Wilson referrals play out and what our needs are at the secondary level, but we do have that flexibility for next year.
So we're feeling confident about our ability to cover services that students need with this model. We've looked at
Absolutely.
Our actual
Yes.
current students. And would there be space for incoming kindergartners if in fact they were identified once they were in?
Yes.
Okay. And then we've got some teaching assistants within the PPS operation, and again, moving our DS our DS programs up to Glendale actually adds additional staffing there through PPS and TAs, so that's why we can absorb that. And then we have a currently unfilled position, one of those 15 that Drew was talking about, and we have determined we can manage without filling that position, so that position will be eliminated. Do folks have questions about this? Because I'm happy to respond to them now or wait till the end.
So we're just reducing by 1 reading teacher, and
Correct.
that's because of Glen Warden closing.
Correct. And then a question came up last week about why weren't we touching the high school? So we've put this chart together to show you the 3-year progression, and actually we have been touching the high school. So in 24-25, you'll see there were no elementary reductions. We had brought you reductions. You had asked us to put them back in. We were able to do that. We took the reductions in other areas. However, grades 6 to 12, that same year, 24-25, we had a reduction in special ed and a reduction in speech at the middle school. In 25-26, this school year, we're looking at, there have been 3.1 FTE reductions, 2 classroom, 1 librarian, and again, this coming year, 26-27, all 5 libraries will be staffed with full-time librarians because we've reduced by 1 school, so we won't have a floater. 0.5 in reading that we moved, and then we've picked up 0.4 in social work. So in 26-27, if we keep going across, we have those 8 full-time equivalent classroom reductions. So I call them 7 classroom. You know now we've already repurposed, if you will, 4 of those people into classes. So it is actually a reduction of 3. We were able to already bring people back before we put them on the Pell List. A single reading position and an administrative position. So the 3-year total at elementary is about 11.1. I know it's always odd when we have these little 0.1s of somebody. But that's what we would anticipate for that 3-year total at elementary. In grades 6 through 12, you can see that there were a number of reductions for the 25-26 school year, and those were all based on enrollment declines and right-sizing classes. And that this year we're looking at one guidance, for going into next year, one guidance counselor, which we've talked about, which we achieved through attrition. That person's retiring. And one family and consumer science teacher who will be placed on the Pell list. So grades 6 to 12 in that same total time, about 10.5 FTE reductions.
With the FACS, didn't we only have one this year?
Two.
We had two.
Typically we have three. We have had one who's been on leave, and that individual is the person who would have returned their least senior, and they will be placed on the Pell because we can make it work with the two we have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And folks have asked me a little bit about administration and not why is administration never touched. So I would want to start by saying when I came here, we had 20 administrators in 2005, 17 district administrators, principals, APs, academic heads, those types of folks, and then 3 central office people. We currently have 17, that includes us, the 3 central office people. So we have been downsizing in administration, and you've seen that when we made our adjustments to the AD last year, when we collapsed the one academic head into science with Matt Hubble, and then that academic head replaced Marcy, who went up to be the AD. We have reduced administration over the course of the years. And I can certainly, sometimes a chart is easier. I can certainly put that in a chart form in the update this week if that would be helpful. So this is the proposition that we would like to take to our voters. Drew, do you want to say anything more about that prop? Come on up here and talk about those two.
So this would be, I don't know if they call it Proposition 1 or A, but this would be the first proposition, the spending limit for the general fund. Then there'd be a proposition that you approve for the bus prop to purchase the one bus, and then a third one for the infrastructure work at the transportation facility. So those will be, yep. Are there any questions for me?
I had a question when it comes to Prop 2, Drew. A little bit of concern that it doesn't stipulate what type of bus we're purchasing, and there seems to be a little confusion in the community. Is there any way that we can clean the verbiage up on that and specify this is a gas diesel vehicle, because they seem to believe it's an EV?
It's a diesel. We'll make sure it's clear.
That'd be wonderful.
We'll make sure it's clear, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. So, Michael, you asked me a question I answered last week on if this budget and closing the school solves all the fiscal concerns going forward. So you all know, reading newspapers and listening around, that the issue is not just Scotia-Glenville with funding. Mahonison was out Sunday that they're heading into it after this current budget year. They're heading into a fiscal problem. So the simplicity to state this is that if our expenses, as you've seen the last 2 years, the first draft, 2 years ago was 6.33 increase rolling forward. This year was like 4.5%. And the aid was 1.7 this year. That's 38% of your budget. That means the rest has got to flow onto the tax levy, which is capped, which starts out at 2%. This year was 1.78. So the simple math is you've got that gap, which you've been filling with fund balance. So this year it's 3.7 million. I would project, standing still, that if you do the simple math, that you'd be about a $2 million gap next year if the state aid doesn't increase. That's not just Scotia, but that's our numbers. You can do them yourself at this point. Just take, go up 4% in the expenses, go up 2% on the aid, use the same fund balance, hopefully, you probably have at least a $2 million gap. And I'll give you that before I retire. I'll give you that look forward. But if this, you asked that question, it was a great question. But if you run your business, it's a simple look forward. The revenue is not coming from the state, and it's pushing it onto the tax rolls, which are capped. If we could go out at 4%, you keep a lot of stuff in, right? Instead of going out at 1.78. But that's the formula, and that's what we live with. So I hope that gives you a little bit of look that a lot of work was done the last 2 years to keep the schools going, keeping all the programs. But if the state does not change the funding formula, a lot of districts are in trouble. And you'll be seeing that in the papers coming forward. It's already out there. Questions?
My question, Drew. Oh, sure. So as you know, the cheese factory went back on pilots this year. Do you think that's setting a precedence for other pilots that may come off and take a year break and jump back on somehow?
What's interesting, in the town supervisor's state of the address, he was touting the expansion of $11.5 million of the cheese factory. Yet they went on to a pilot to reduce their assessed value. I don't know what Metroplex's thought is. I'm not involved in those discussions, but it's disconcerting. I said that. I've never seen a company come off a pilot, go on the tax rolls, and then go back on a pilot. Obviously, they didn't like their assessed value, and that was their way of avoiding a tax surcharge. They negotiated with Metroplex, I assume. And, I mean, they are bringing jobs into the area. They've done a great job over there. I'm not saying that. But you saw how it impacts the tax cap formula.
Correct, yeah.
So,
thank you.
Yep.
Susan, I have a question for you. So the instructional staff reduction. So the 3 FT that are on the PLE, the elementary, so let's say down the line, are they restricted? So forgive me, I'm not savvy with certifications of teachers or staff members. Are they restricted only to elementary? K6. So what if they obtain more certifications down the road, so like to 6 to 12, or I don't know how it works, so high school or middle school, would they be eligible to put in for a job that may open up in the middle school in the future? How would that kind of factor in their, I guess I want to say, how would it factor for them on the list? If they, correct.
Are on the list for 7 years. If they suddenly have to find something else, that's not what they're on our list for.
Okay.
But if there were a position and they were certified, they could certainly apply for it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a few questions on the budget. Susan, I understand what you're saying at the beginning, that we're voting as to whether our budget as a whole is going to be the 67,155,000, et cetera. But to get to that path, you have to show us how you plan to do that, and that's why you gave us the recommendations today, and that's why we're looking to see, is that something that we feel comfortable working with to get to that number? So that's why I have some questions with some of the recommendations. Last year, one of the things we had to do to get to the budget was really scaling back our buildings and grounds. And Drew did a good job with that, but he really said to us, this is really kind of skin and bones here that we're doing. We can do it, but that's it. So I was surprised to see about the reduction of a general mechanic as one of the reductions. So I was hoping, Drew, you could explain why you think we're able to handle that if we were already at kind of a skin and bones situation with building and grounds.
You remember the presentation when I showed the impact of the 2 supervisors under the MOA's retiring was about $150,000 increase to the budget. So in the budget is a director of facilities position. I think we'll give you a working manager skill set that we haven't had at that level. Yes, you'll feel the impact of it, but it was a way to present to the board with everything else going on, a mitigation of this transformation. Do I want to do it? No, but I think we can do it. I think we'll still be able to manage it. A good director of facilities, I think you're going to get a broad base of skill set that we with me leaving, I think you're going to need it, and I think you're going to see that we'll be okay. But Kim, to your point, absolutely, it's, but in fairness to the equity of everything else, we reduced all across the board. It's my job to make sure we have equity in our reductions and maintain the health and safety of the districts, and I believe that district will have that next year.
And then I also have a similar question with the reduction of one secretary, because that's another area where I know we've felt the crunch of already having the reductions of the secretary. So to have another one combining with the fact that we are planning on removing door monitors and hall monitors because of the new security, but there is still going to be some work there that needs to be done. How would we be able to handle that reduction?
That was in collaboration, talking to the administrators. It wasn't done unilaterally or in a bubble. They felt that based on what was going on and the closing of the school and the workload that they could do it. So that's what it was done with a administrative collaboration on a reduction. And we did talk to the secretarial unit about it also before we came forward with it.
And no, when I'm asking these questions, I'm not thinking you're doing anything unilaterally. I just want to know what the path was to get there. Okay, I just want to make sure we were on the same page with that. Okay.
Nope, not at all taking it that way.
Okay. And then with respect to the reduction of the aides at the elementary level and the middle school, I'm still having some difficulty understanding where that reduction is taking place and why you think you're able to do it here in that area.
Sure. Mr. Arquette, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so it's driven by CSEs for the most part, and it's just a conservative estimate by the administrators, Mrs. Berconi and I, that we will have fewer aid needs next year. For example, we have a number of kids that currently need an aid at Glen Warden, who will be going to a school that will have co-teach. And so there's the potential for no longer needing an aide because there'll be a second teacher or a TA in the room at all times. So just looking at projections for next school year, it's a conservative estimate as to how many aides we can reduce for the year.
Okay. And then another thing that we had asked, or I had asked about, and I believe a couple others were interested in hearing, was looking at our third-party contracts. And I just want to see because in looking at this, I don't see any reduction in that particular arena, like our town of Glenville, SRO, communications potentially, which if I'm looking at the line item right, and maybe I'm not, that's about $100,000. The Glenville police SRO is about 120 versus Scotia's being 80, and then there's the $40,000, excuse me, reduction with that. I just wanted to know what review was done in that regard with respect to third-party contracts, because for me personally, I prefer to see reductions there than losing folks that are actually employed with us. And I'm not saying lose them, I'm just saying some sort of reduction.
Drew, when we looked at each of the contracts within this past week, I would tell you we're not feeling very confident about getting reductions from those particular calls. But we'll be able to have that discussion going forward with them. The town, whether we feel good about what the town gave us or not, the town did give us a reduction on the SRO. We did get reductions to our IT provider, Acture. I believe that increases for Mr. Bakery's work, on council, those people are attorneys for minimal increases.
Well, they're all requests for proposals that are being reviewed, but they're all, I'm not going to disclose anything because I haven't talked to the audit committee, but they're all going to come under, to be all inflationary.
There'd also been discussions with respect to at least communications and SRO about some potential alternatives. Have they been looked into yet?
Well, you asked me that last week in executive. I don't know if you want me to talk about what we discussed in executive about the alternatives, or because the town of Glenville oversees, they have an SRO program and the village does. The town has jurisdiction over the school district, law enforcement. Mr. Roberts asked me about the Schenectady County, correct, Chad? Looking at that, and we'll look into that. Everybody has a budget, everybody has a union. It's going to be pretty similar. Karnjay brought up the privatization, going to a private firm, and I told him about the SRO program. It's a certification annually, so forth and so on. So, but we did sit down with the town. They have a budget. They gave us some concessions on overtime and other things, but their number that we presented. So we did spend time with them. What else to tell you? Hope that answers your question, Kimberly.
No, I appreciate that. And then I was also looking at, and this is because of current events, to be honest with you, the item regarding gas and diesel. I know when you prepared this, I'm assuming, and tell me if my assumption's wrong, that on page 12, you said it was 171,000 and change, and you were keeping it relative at that with that particular budget line. And I know you said that at the time of last week, at least, that you had projected 117 was actually being used for this year. Unfortunately, some things have happened since that point in time, and I was just curious, have you had an opportunity or plan on taking a look at that line? And because I'm assuming, I know it's affecting me personally already, buying gas from 5 days ago to now. Have you done anything to see what, if anything, we need to do on that line because of potential changes?
Every 2 weeks, look at the latest fill-ups, the state contract number that we're incurring from our fill-ups on diesel and unleaded. The good news is the school district doesn't pay taxes. Like your gas and my gas is laid onto with federal and state taxes. Ours is not impacted by that. So we don't go up the same way. And we do get a federal alleviation from summer school on the ESY program, which I don't budget for, but it comes back as like 35,000 from the feds. That's my contingency that sits over in the federal fund in case we have. So I think that we're comfortable. I have a historical trend. I have monthly reports I get from Clara on, like I said, I look at it every 2 weeks, but monthly we formalize it on the quantity and the cost per gallon and the what we're doing. So got a good handle on it. I think we'll be good. But again, who knows, Kim?
No, I appreciate. I'm just glad to know that you're checking it every 2 weeks. That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Drew, one quick one. Our carry forward balance for this year was what was the number you said about 20 minutes ago?
The gap to the cap carrying forward?
No, what we carried forward from this year's budget to apply to 2026-27 budget.
The fund balance?
Fund balance, yeah.
It was 3.7 million.
3.7? Okay.
We were using 4.4, but we don't have the money because fund balance was cut in half because the surplus was half of what it was last year.
I had two questions for Susan. So I can't remember if we talked about it last week or somewhere in between, but looking at the door monitors that we're losing, I think we said you were moving increased typist time over there to cover that. Just because it's come up previously, is that kosher union-wise? Can we do that?
I would tell you that's in discussion right now.
Okay, good. Thank you. And then finally, because I'm going to hear a lot about it with the reading teachers. So I follow you and Rick's logic of where we're going with all that. But could we just walk through that one more time of, I think a lot of the community are seeing increased populations at the building, but not so much increase in teachers, though Lincoln and Glendale are getting 0.5 over there. Is that just something we could walk through real quick once again to be redundant so that it's out there?
Yeah, so like Susan said, our reading teachers are terrific, but they're spread a bit thin across our elementaries. I had the principals draw up their RTI groups and how big they are. We have lots of groups in our buildings that have like 1 or 2 students, so those groups can accommodate more kids, and we should be fairly easily able to take the Glen Warden kids, disperse them into the remaining 3 buildings, and there is room in those groups for the Glen Warden kids. And on top of it, we're going to add FTE to both Glendale, Lincoln, and potentially SAC. Okay. So those kids will have their RTI opportunities. We have the staffing to accommodate them. There really should be no change in service. And each of those buildings will have more groups to offer because they'll have more reading teacher there.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Susan.
That our elementary teachers have received their tentative assignments for next school year, which schools they'll be in. I would say that Mr. Arquette, well over 95% of them got their first choice, grade level and building. So we're feeling good about that, and certainly listening to people who had hoped for other changes. We'll see if we can accommodate them. I was at Glen Warden today with Mrs. Bush. We had a great meeting with teachers after school where we talked about things that are on their mind, moving, packing up, all of those kinds of things, which we're working through on the timeline. And Mr. Mayo is working with Mr. Giaquinto in terms of what that will mean and what it will take. So our teachers know where they will be at this point. Jill and I and Sarah have also met with those folks who are affected by potential reductions in force, so we've accomplished that. That piece is done. You'll hear from Transpar on Monday evening, primarily around the boundaries for incoming K students. So this part where we're going to start to adjust our boundaries and build some flex zones. But meantime, we will be in a position to notify our other students of where they will be in the fall. So we would anticipate next week, working with Megan and John and Rick, that we will be notifying parents in two ways. One with a letter that comes to them via Parent Square, so it's a little more instantaneous, but we'll also send snail mail, which takes a little longer to get spots. But we would anticipate students will know next week which schools they're going to be in, and the parents will know. So I feel good about that. Again, we're moving. We would expect that we will still have folks requesting school placements other than the school their child's assigned to, so what we've always called SWAP. We'll start SWAP a little bit earlier, mid-April, for folks who are going to request another school, but I will have to say we are not going to be quite as flexible as we've been in the past in terms of SWAP because, again, we're trying to equalize our class sizes, so we're working on that. But all of those things are moving forward and going well, or as well as could be expected considering the trauma of closing a school. Thank you.
Susan, are all students and parents getting a letter?
Everybody.
Okay,
so even
cool.
if you're not moving, yes, you will get a letter.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Susan?
Has there been any movement on the speed zone outside of Glendale? I know that's above our echelon, but...
I have connected, well, I know at least now who I need to talk to at DOT in Region 1. Her name is Carrie Kircher. She's an engineer, and Region 1 is who has Sacandaga Road. So she and I missed each other today, but we're going to connect and talk about what specifically they would require happen to get a speed zone there. So yes, I've been through 3 different individuals, but this is the right one.
Right. And then a couple weeks ago, I heard there was going to be a new effort towards mental health assets for the kids in Glen Warden. Has there been any movement or feedback on that yet? Has it been implemented?
I can speak to that.
Thank you,
Ms. Polakowski met with the social worker, Ms. Cubano, who was going to schedule time in, I think, all of the classrooms. Her goal was to get there this month, and so I do believe that's still in play. It may take till April break, but she does plan to work through a community circle with almost all of the classes. We're trying to decide whether or not kindergartners were ready for that kind of conversation, but certainly 1 through 5 will have that circle time with Ms. Cubano.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
Could you
Thanks,
also
Susan.
mention about the parent piece that we're working on?
Yeah, and some good feedback that we got from the Glen Warden community is that parents are looking for more resources. So we have a contract with Jennifer Bichon, Dr. Bichon. She does our Parents as Learning Partners events. They're virtual. She's terrific. We're going to have her come in person to work with our Glen Warden families as an additional resource sometime this spring. We're working on that.
Is she part of, on Parent Square LC from time to time, we get the webinars?
She's the one who runs them, yep.
Is there any possibility that she could push something out ahead of that? I know I have questions of, well, we're hitting spring break, what do we do with this? Just something of, if you're getting the question, does she have anything like that that we could push out maybe?
Like a resource, like a FAQ or something like that?
Yeah.
I can ask.
I think that would be great if we could.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. If I can get a motion and a second, please, to adopt the final adoption of the 26-27 budget.
I'd like to make a motion for the final adoption of the 2026-2027 budget.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you both. Any more questions, comments on this? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved with thanks. If I get a motion, please, and a second for the legal notice of the annual district election on May 19th this year, 2026.
I'll make a motion for a legal notice of annual district elections, May 19, 2026, as submitted.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thanks, Chad. Questions or comments, anybody? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Let's see, item number 10. If I get a motion and a second, please. Sorry, I was just seeing if Pam is able to see us. Okay.
Yeah, she's been saying it.
To appoint a chief inspector of the Scotia-Glenville Central School District's annual district election.
I'd like to make a motion to approve chief inspector for the Scotia-Glenville Central School District annual district election.
Thank you. And a second? Thanks, Kim. Questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Yes. Or abstain?
Hal?
Yes.
Can I interject back on 8?
And number 8.
8, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Back to the budget. I didn't realize it was in the related propositions, and I just wanted to mention Chad had made a suggested change to it. So do we need to say with the suggested change, if all the board members agree with that suggested change? Or, because the language, we were talking about changing the language to the Prop 2.
Yeah, I think they're just making sure it's a diesel bus.
Right.
So it has
Right,
the word diesel.
but I think we need to see if all the board agrees with that and then make that change.
Well, let's vote on number 10 since we didn't get the final vote first, and then we can go back to that one.
Okay, thank you.
Right. All right, so there was no questions on item 10? All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? All right, so now we can go back to item number 8, leave it as is, or we approve it this time with the correction for the diesel bus, not the
9.
9?
Not 8.
8's the budget.
8 is the budget. And it says in related
And props.
propositions.
No, it's 8.
Right, that's in the, in 9. In the notice that's going is Prop 1 and 2 and 3. You change the name of that.
Right, we need to change Prop 2, right?
Yeah.
It's Prop 2. Prop 1's the budget, 3 is the capital project, 2 is the diesel bus.
Yeah,
Right, so
I
we
just
need-
got a concerning amount of the community that just thought that's all EV.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, it's pretty obvious with the price, but
Right, right.
I wish we could get them for that.
Right, they haven't caught on fire yet. Kathy's reading. Go ahead.
Well, so I have prop 2, but do you want me to read it, or
If-
we would add it?
Yeah, if you'd like to, because does it say EV bus or does it say?
It doesn't say anything.
So the third one is ED.
Yeah.
Prop 2 is about the buses, but I'll read it.
57 passenger diesel bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'd like to move to make that change.
Okay, a
I'll
second?
second.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'll make that change.
57 passenger diesel bus.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 11, to appoint a chairperson for the Scotia-Glenville Central School District Annual Election. I have no problem doing it this year since I'll be here. If anybody else wants to do it.
I'll move to have Hal be the chairperson.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. If I get a motion, a second, please, on resolution number 12.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resolution to enter into the service agreement with the Albany, Schoharie, Schenectady, Saratoga Board of Cooperative Education Services, April 16th, 2026 through June 30th, 2031.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions on this? Comments?
This 220, I just want to confirm that's for the full 5 years, so we're talking like 45 a year. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? If I can now get a motion, a second, please, on resolutions 13, 14, and 16. We're going to skip 15 to do it by itself.
I move that the board accepts and appropriate gift and donations for various senior high school award scholarships, gift and donations for filing cabinets, and accept and establish the Octavos Singers of Schenectady Award, all with thanks.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you, everyone. Questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved with thanks. If I can get a motion and a second, please, for resolution 15.
I move to accept and appropriate the gift and donation from Lily Knapp of the gift of period product kits to donate to the Scotia-Glenville School District as a part of her Eagle Scout project.
Absolutely. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you both. Anyone have any questions or comments?
I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge and thank Lily for thinking of the district in doing this Eagle Scout project. I know their Eagle Scout projects are tough to do. We had another wonderful example of that today, and it's always lovely to see our students who are pursuing those want to share those gifts with the district. So thank you to Lily.
Absolutely. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. And a motion, please, on communications.
16.
All right, thank you. And a second. Thanks, Kimmy. Questions, comments on any of those? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Under routine business, anyone have any questions for the Treasurer Report, February 2026? All right, so moved. Moving on to other business, tenure information.
That's just for your review at this point.
Okay. Anyone have any questions about that yet? No. All right. Okay. Yep. All right. If not tenured, any other business?
I just want to put it out there that the Tartan Friendship Festival will be happening on May 12th, I believe from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Malwick Park. Special thanks to all the PTAs that are making this happen. I see the work going back and forth. It's a great effort, and it's awesome to see all the PTAs working together for that. Thank you to the town of Glenville for donating the use of the park fee-free. all the sponsors that are coming together to facilitate it. It looks like it's going to be a really great event, and I'm really excited to attend. If you get on Facebook, please RSVP so we can have enough materials for all the kids. And then also there'll be a volunteer list coming out, so please put your hand up and chip in some time if you can.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jeff. Kimmy?
Susan, I have a question for you. I had a couple parents question me, with all the closing of the school and combining the schools and the budget, they were asking, the preschool program that we have already, will we still be running that with adding all the students to the schools? Is that, I know it's not part of our program, will that still happen, or is it not gonna happen next year?
As long as we have room for them, it will happen.
Okay.
I had a couple questions and a comment. I was wondering where we were on the posting for business manager.
Drew, do you want to respond?
Posted 2 weeks ago. We'll be closing the posting this coming Friday.
And are we going to be doing a posting for building and maintenance director? Has that happened as well?
It's been happening. We're getting applications.
Great. And then with respect to the Glen Warden building, has there been any, I know we were going to pursue some assessments and that sort of thing. Has there been anything with that as well?
I've not received the appraisal reports. Once I do, I'll share them with the superintendent and we'll share with the board.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions. I just wanted to make a couple comments. We had the Founders Day dinner this past Wednesday, so congratulations to all those winners. It was at a new facility. It was really nice. The dinner was nice. The camaraderie was great. Congratulations to all our winners. We had Beauty and the Beast last weekend, which was absolutely wonderful. They did such a great job. It was really lovely to see them. And I have to give a prop to the crew people changing the background. They kept getting applause too for their work on that. It was lovely. And also this weekend we're Disney all the time. We have Little Mermaid this weekend on Thursday, Friday, both at 7, and then on Saturday at 2 and at 7. And I've heard wonderful things about that as well. So break a leg, kids, and come out and see the show.
Excellent. Anything else in other business? All right, at this time, we'll open up the second hearing, privilege of the floor. Remind everybody we have allotted 30 minutes. If you wish to address the board, please step up to the podium and adhere to our 5-minute policy, please. All right, we'll close the second hearing and privilege of the floor. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? Thank you, everybody.
So, I can ask you, you said to go ahead and put my last name, so, Rotary, back down.